guys. Welcome back to Men Against Nonsense. Man, this one here we got today, this one here is some nonsense here. And just to say it short, there's a reason why I'm not a big fan of the public school system at all. This is out of ABC 7 Chicago. Let's check it out.
Cheryl, Rob, the parents of the 8-year-old boy tell me their son has all of his shots, and it was just a matter of getting the paperwork transferred over to the school nurse. But they say the school took an extreme measure, calling the police on their son for not having his shot records. Shanita and Timothy Rhodes say they moved to Country Club Hills to give their children a good life and solid education, especially for their youngest son, Tamir, who has autism.
Tamir was diagnosed with autism
Let me pause that for a second. So we're talking about autism. Do some of your own research, fellas, on autism, and you'll find out that there might be a connection to the things that they ask you to put in your children as to why autism has increased. And I might get a strike for this, but who cares? But do your own research on that. Find out what's really happening when it comes to these medications they suggest for us, right? But so according to her, everything is up to date. So why is there a problem? Well, the problem is look at how much control the school system has over your family when you give your children over to their system. See, me personally, I took my children out of public school. I think it's been 7 years took them out of public school. I was in the public school system teaching mathematics for 8 years, and then I left and went back and taught math again for another 5 years. So I've been in the thick of it, and I don't like it. And so when we talk about nonsense, right, this is the kind of nonsense that we face now. If you hand your children over to someone else, you have to expect that there'll be some nonsense at some point, because no one will take care of your children like you will, or educate your children like you will. My wife educates my children. I work. All right? I work. I bring in the money. He said, "Oh, that's old fashioned." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It works. It's been working for 6,000 years of recorded history. It's been working. Men go hunt, shoot, get the food, work, labor, sweat. Woman, nurture, nature, children. It works. It's a team effort. That's old-fashioned. It sounds sexist, misogynistic, all of that, chauvinistic, whatever. The point is, I'm a man against nonsense. And I think it's nonsense to expect someone else to take care of your children more than you. Right? You cannot advocate that responsibility. And I'm talking to men right now. This is not, women against nonsense. This is men against nonsense. Men, you need to care about your children enough to watch out and watch the things that are happening at these schools you're sending them to. You need to be on a parent-teacher association if you're going to have your young people in public school, and you need to go regularly. And you need to watch out for them. Because these teachers will, not just they will propagandize your children into ways of thinking you don't agree with. And if you're not checking, if your young people are coming home and you're not saying, "Hey, what happened in school today? How did school go? What did you learn?" If you're not actively involved in that, you'll never know why your child has changed from the things that you've taught them at home. And the reason will be is because they spend more time at the public school than they do with you. Let's keep going.
before the pandemic started. He's very loving and kind, and he makes a friend wherever he goes. I try to give him a better life, a normal life.
But this couple says October 17th was anything but normal for Tamir at Meadowview Intermediate School. Mrs. Rhodes says she got a call from the school nurse requesting her son's vaccine records. She says she informed the nurse that her son's previous school was within the district.
If I understand this correctly, medical records are really supposed to be private, right? So why does the school feel like they had a right to request these medical records, right? And also, maybe not in this particular jurisdiction, but in many jurisdictions, this jurisdiction is Country Club Hills, but in many jurisdictions, you could have an exemption, whether you can conscientiously object to vaccination for whatever reason, whether it's religion or it's just you just conscientiously object. And so, what's this demand over this couple, right? So men, you got to learn to, again, stand up for your rights too. You're gonna say, well, hey, first of all, it's really private information, and second of all, you didn't even ask whether we had an exemption or not.
Strict, and that they should have all of his shot records on file.
Can you just call over there, call the nurse, and obtain his records? And to my dismay, she said, no, that's not my job.
Mrs. Rhodes says she had planned to call her son's former school that day to get his medical records faxed over. But she said she had to step into a work meeting first. While she was in that meeting, she says she got a call from a Country Club Hills police officer who was at her home.
He said to me that I was called here because of a case of neglect. And I said, neglect?
For neglect. Look at that.
You know, in awe. And he said,
this is why you have to watch out for these schools, men. Watch out with these schools. It can cause you trouble if you're not paying attention. Because, yes, someone will call CPS or the police and say you're medically neglecting your children if you don't agree with what they want you to get for your children. And again, I'm sure I'm going to get a strike for this, but I really don't care. Men, you got to open your eyes. It's better for your seed to be homeschooled or find some sort of co-op than to let these kind of people be able to put you in these situations where police is called. Now you, as an investigation has to happen, your life is turned upside down because now you're dealing with this stuff and maybe having to go to court over it and everything. Men, we got some work to do. You can avoid nonsense if you abstain from nonsense. Abstain. Don't let these systems run your life.
Well, ma'am, I can see that it's not a case of neglect, so can you just call the school district and, work out the matter? And I said, okay.
Mrs. Rhodes says she called Tamir's former school and his pediatrician to have the records sent over. At that point, she says she thought the issue was resolved. But when their nanny arrived to pick up Tamir from school, he wasn't there.
So I'm in disbelief because I'm like, he's not there. And so she says, well, they said something about the police picking him up. And I'm like, the police?
Mrs. Rhodes says the school called Country Club Hills police to...
Now, think about it. Technically, that's kidnapping. Because nobody told them where their son was. And one of the biggest problems I have as I'm watching this interview here is this father hasn't said anything. Now, again, I'm just reacting to this. I haven't watched this whole thing before recording. So maybe he says something later, but he hasn't said anything. Man up. He should be outraged. He should have something to say. He should be warning other men in this interview. Hey, watch out.
Pick him up and send him home. The reason? Tamir was now considered a trespasser. Tamir was dropped off by police and retrieved by his older brother. The Rhodes are outraged.
What happened to putting a note in a child's book bag? What happened to giving us a call and going down his emergency call list and letting us know? I would have left work early to come get him instead of having him brought home in a police car.
The parents say the school has not been willing to address the issue, so they hired attorney Calvin Townsend to get answers.
A kid who has special needs, someone who feels comfortable in a certain environment, and when you take them out of that environment, you're further traumatizing him. So it's something, again, that we want the principal, the school nurse to answer for.
The ABC 7 team reached out.
The attorney has making a very fair point. He's a kid with special needs, and I've worked with special needs kids for 5 years. But again, you knowing this about your own family, you have to make decisions, conscious decisions. Am I going to put my son in this situation? Do I really expect these individuals to care for my son the way that I do? And we need to carefully scrutinize that. I mean, daycare centers, schools, anything. Protect your children. Protect your children, men. Protect your children. Think beyond what's just easier for your schedule so you can go to work and do this and do that. Protect your children, man. Protect them.
Out to Meadowview Intermediate School to find out why Tamir was sent home with police and what their policy is for vaccine records. The school principal, Philip Bazile, declined to comment, but told me to reach out to the district superintendent for a statement. The superintendent, Dr. Dwayne Megan, never returned my calls or emails. Tamir's parents tell me their son hasn't been the same since the incident and gets nervous when it's time to go to school. They say they hope this never happens again to Tamir or any other innocent child. I did reach out to Country Club Hills Police. The police chief confirmed that they were called by the school because Tamir was considered to be trespassing. The chief says Tamir was not handcuffed and was safely turned over to an adult at home. The chief says it was his understanding that the parents were informed that someone needed to pick Tamir up, but the parents tell me that that is absolutely not true. They said they...
So anyway, again, you know, this absolute nonsense. Like, I mean, you call the police on a boy with autism because he's missing some vaccine records. Men, we gotta do better. Again, we have to do better, and you'd be better off starting your own schools, man. Come on, start your own schools, homeschool, something is better than these kind of things happening. Is this rare? Probably, but again, I worked in public school systems, and I traveled across the country as an activist for 8 years as well, fighting for quality education. I found that at most public school systems in large urban areas specifically, it's those systems and institutions are hell. And they're not good for our young people. And men, we have to stand up and raise and educate our children ourselves. Okay? And by the way, I'm gonna leave on this thought. If your young people don't know how to use a dictionary, the book, I'm not talking about Google. If your children do not know how to use a dictionary, shame on you. You ain't no father at all.